I got it done. And it turned out pretty good. I think it'll be fine. We are here at Slowly Sailing Shoreside HQ in eastern Pennsylvania, also known as my house. And I have a little project I got to do before I go back to the boat because I want to uncover it and I got to cover up the hatch. I've taken this bad boy home with me a few weeks ago. Just haven't had time to do much except disassemble it and give it a once over with sandpaper. I'm going to clean it, scrub it with vinegar and whatnot, and probably put some teak oil on it later. But first I got to make some progress with this because I got to leave tomorrow. First, as you may recall, this glass was not really adequate. It had broken in every single corner, well, except that one, mostly because these holes are too close together. It was all countersunk with this type of screw in it. They're bronze, they're lovely, but countersinking right into that just made it all weaker. It wasn't sealed very well either. There was some Sikaflex or something underneath it. Actually, that's the top on it. After they drove the screws in, they did, where's that, the bottom? No, that's the bottom. After they drove the screws in, they put a layer of Sikaflex on top of it to seal it. Now, I never saw much water coming in around the glass, but I did see water coming in. This corner is that corner of the combing that has the rot. It's possible that it was getting in this gap here where the miter is. It's hard to tell. There's a little water staining on the inside. I'm trying to do this without moving the camera even once. But I never actually saw it dripping here. It might have been making its way in. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to put some Sikaflex in that. A little bit. The black will look okay against the teak. The other gaps are not significant enough. It came apart pretty easily. All the other parts were not glued in place, which is great. There are some mysteries like these screws that were driven in practically right into the miter. I don't know what that's about. It's got a sort of a tongue. Not really a dovetail, but sort of a tongue joint. Maybe it has something to do with that, or this part, I don't know. It all seems like one piece. I don't want to take it apart completely. It's not worth it. So I'm gonna put some Sikaflex in those holes and put the screws back and call that done. The significant thing I'm gonna do, the major change I'm gonna do, is adding a brace right here, because there was no brace in the middle. This hatch, or ones just like it, have been on the boat with different configurations. There was one that had one brace this way and two that way. There was one where it was braced on top, yada yada. I'm just gonna add a simple brace in here. This is a piece of maple from my scrap pile. It'll be fine. What I'm gonna do is notch here and here. Probably gonna make a half lap notch in the end of the stick. And it's just gonna sit in there. I'm not gonna glue it. I'm not gonna fasten it. It'll just sit in there. It's going to get trapped by the plexiglass and the new plexiglass, and also by these pieces. When they're in place, they hang over a little bit, and that'll help support the glass and the stick. But I'm not going to cut all the way back. I'm going to cut about to there, about where the screw hole is. Now what this means is I got to change my screw pattern, but that's fine because this isn't going to do. I got to move these outboard. I may delete one screw per long side so I can make a different pattern and also accommodate the brace. I'm going to start with making my cut in the teak. The reason being that there's no do-over with that. And if they don't turn out perfect, the notches, I can always get another piece of this. I actually have a piece of white oak that I could mill down for this if I have to. Our piece is 3/4 proud. We're gonna make our notch a little proud because we want it to fit in there, not loose, but not tight. It's not gonna get glued, it's not gonna get fastened, so it's gotta be snug. You all carpenters watching this, you have to forgive me. Boy, this thing's dirty. I I have a good square. Guess where it is? Yeah, so I found this in the garage. It is set at 90. I double checked it. Obviously not the tool for this, but it'll have to do. I don't have time to go to the boat. Good enough. Well, that's wrong. What's wrong, Shawnee? Okay. Do I want to go all the way across? More likely to leak if I go all the way across. I already thought this through. I don't know why I'm asking myself these questions. I'm just reinforcing the mark here. Now, the height of this thing is 1 1/16. I think that's a good height. I don't want to go any smaller. It'd be stronger if it were taller, but it doesn't need to be super strong. I'm mostly putting it in to keep the plexiglass from bowing downward like the old piece did over time. So what I'm going to do is the depth of this notch is only going to be about half of that. Got my 1/2 inch mark there. I would do it from the top, but it won't. This is too wide to work up there. Yeah. It wants to dig in. Oh, okay, that's working pretty neatly. So there. I'm not using a pencil because this has all got to be real precise. And I know this isn't the correct tool to describe these. I know. I need a clamp. Okay, well, I don't have an appropriate clamp. I don't have an appropriate vise even in the garage. So I'm going to have to do this the hard way. This saw is probably too coarse. I have a razor saw back saw, but I think that might be overkill. All right, let's get Cat over here, shall we? Well, I jammed a scrap of that stuff in there. It's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's going to be fine. A little long. That's better. Now, it needs a little sanding, but we can do that in a minute. And I think it'd be best to at least mark the length of my notch in place. The camera battery ran out while I was in the midst of this, but I got it done. And it turned out pretty good. I think it'll be fine. Not too loose, not too tight. The next thing I gotta do is remark and re-drill my screw holes.
I'm going to come back from the corner about a ½ inch on these corner holes. On this side, I'm not going to change that layout.
Because we're gonna add something to these screws. And then, for the nerve-wracking part, I made this glass a little undersized. Gotta figure out a way to, well, it kind of is touching where it needs to touch to stay put. Yeah, the nerve-wracking part here is I gotta drill through the plexi now. I'm gonna go with a very, very small diameter just to mark my holes to begin with. Now I'm going to try to go with the final size hole. It's a little too close to the edge. Alrighty then. Got all our final holes. Didn't break it, which is good because I paid almost $80 for a 2 foot by 4 foot piece of this 1/4 inch stuff. Yeah, and because of the dimensions, the remainder from that 2 by 4 isn't big enough to make one of these. So I had one chance with my $80 to make it right. The next thing we're gonna do is get some Sika on the wood. Actually, I lied. The next thing is to sand the inside face of this glass to make it translucent for privacy and for diffusing the light a little bit. I'm going to try it by hand with some 220. It may not be aggressive enough, but let's see. Well, yeah. I would use a palm sander or finish sander, but it's not here. I guess where it is. Yep. And this isn't very even though. Yeah, I forgot I had this thing. This might do it.
Actually, it seems laying this on top of the piece of titanium is giving me the best results.
Pretty good. It's harder than I thought it would be to get it even. I learned this trick a long time ago. I used to work in a display shop where sometimes we would do these sort of dioramas where, well, you can't tell because the film is on here, where you'd want to simulate ice and you'd have a very smooth top surface, but translucent, mimicking the fact that real ice has lots of tiny air bubbles in it. But it seems that I've lost my touch, but I'll get it. That may need touching up. That may need touching up later. I can do it with the hatch in place. It's not the end of the world. Okay, now it's time for some Sikaflex. I have a partial tube here, the caulk gun type. Oh wait a minute, I gotta get rid of that stuff. I'm gonna assume the nozzle is completely dried out. So I'm gonna cut it open. Let's hope that there's some good stuff in there. Now I thought about using some kind of tape between the glass and the wood, but then I would have an overlap or I'd have a seam. So I figured the wise thing to do, or the clever thing to do, would be to just paint some sealant on there and let it cure. And then probably overnight, and then tomorrow before I go, I'm gonna bed the plastic and finish putting this thing together.
Hard to say if I'm getting the right thickness. I probably should err on the thick side because it should remain flexible and the glass will swish it down, we hope. But I don't want to make it uneven because then the glass won't seat properly. I really don't want to get it in that gap, but it's going to be all right. Let's not see 100%. This could be a trouble area in terms of water intrusion. I'm going to get a little bit in there. But I don't think so. Other than the areas where the glass was cracked near the corners, I don't think water was getting past it. In fact, the crack is probably what caused that. Which corner? Oh boy. That corner to let enough water in to damage the wood inside the coating. It's actually kind of going off on the brush already. Not much of a working time for this stuff.
All right, it's been a couple hours. So this stuff should be firm enough. All right, that looks pretty good. Yeah, it's not quite tacky, it's just a little sticky.
Let's clean that up. Yeah, it's kind of like a rubber gasket now. Sort of. You can see exactly where I overdid it. It's going to be a little messy. Those inside corners. It's not making positive contact everywhere. But I don't know. Should be okay. I already oiled this side.
Now I'm hoping that these washers aren't going to get in the way of this. Well, I had to stop to recharge this thing again. And I had some momentum, so I didn't record the most funnest part of this whole project, which was trapping all these bronze rods between these two things while aligning them. Yeah, probably for the best. There was some there was some swearing and tears involved, some maniacal laughter. So probably for the best that I didn't record that. Anyway, I got it all together. I was worried. I thought these weren't going to clear, but I just had it situated wrong. It's going to be fine. Yeah, it's going to be fine. And one more of those. Using the wrong tool. Oh, golly. Well, when I need tools on the boat, they're here. When I need tools here, they're on the boat. Same old, same old. Goes back. Yeah. So there you have it. Not perfect, but much, much better. I just slapped some teak oil on the outside. We're just gonna let it suck that up, and we'll throw some more on there later. I did a quick polish on the bronze rods. I didn't have the right kind of polishing compound. I just had automotive wax. Probably a pass with some very, very fine steel wool is in order. But for now, they look a million times better. None of them are bent or cracked. That's the important thing.